Why do so many people feel lost and stuck in life?
Because many people spend years living according to other people's expectations and slowly lose connection with their true selves.
Cause behind feeling lost.
Often it starts with emotional wounds and unmet needs from childhood that continue to influence our adult lives.
Why do people ignore their true feelings?
Because they are taught to please others and suppress their emotions to gain acceptance.
Can childhood experiences affect adult life?
Yes, childhood experiences shape our beliefs, behaviors, and even the way we see ourselves.
Why do some successful people still feel empty?
Because success cannot replace inner peace and emotional connection.
What is trauma exactly?
Trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happened.
Can trauma exist even without major abuse?
Absolutely. Emotional neglect and lack of understanding can be deeply painful.
Why do people become disconnected from themselves?
They learn to wear masks to survive and eventually forget who they truly are.
Why are people afraid of being themselves?
Because they fear rejection, criticism, or losing the approval of others.
What happens when we ignore our emotions?
Unexpressed emotions often turn into anxiety, stress, or depression.
Why do people keep repeating unhealthy patterns?
Because the mind tends to recreate familiar experiences, even painful ones.
Can healing begin at any age?
Yes, it's never too late to understand yourself and start healing.
How can someone reconnect with themselves?
By becoming aware of their thoughts, feelings, and needs without judgment.
Why is self-awareness important?
Because you cannot change what you do not understand.
Why do many people struggle with anxiety?
Anxiety often comes from living in fear and constantly worrying about the future.
Is it possible to heal emotional pain?
Yes, but healing requires honesty, patience, and self-compassion.
Why do people seek validation from others?
Because they never learn to value themselves from within.
Can loneliness exist even when surrounded by people?
Yes, emotional disconnection creates loneliness more than physical isolation.
What role does self-love play?
Self-love allows us to accept ourselves without constantly seeking approval.
Why do some people become people pleasers?
Because they believe their worth depends on making others happy.
What is the first step toward healing?
Recognizing that your pain deserves attention and understanding.
Why do we fear failure so much?
Because many of us associate failure with shame and rejection.
Can mindfulness help?
Yes. Mindfulness helps us become present instead of being trapped by the past or future.
Why do people compare themselves to others?
Because society often teaches us to measure our worth through external achievements.
What does it mean to find yourself?
It means discovering who you are beneath your fears and social expectations.
Why do relationships sometimes become unhealthy?
Because unresolved wounds often affect the way we connect with others.
Can awareness break negative cycles?
Yes, awareness is the beginning of transformation.
Why do people avoid emotional pain?
Because facing pain feels uncomfortable, even though avoiding it prolongs suffering.
What is true happiness?
True happiness comes from authenticity, connection, and meaning.
How important is purpose in life?
Purpose gives direction and helps people overcome difficult times.
Why do many people feel exhausted all the time?
Because pretending to be someone else consumes enormous energy.
Is vulnerability a weakness?
No, vulnerability is a sign of courage and authenticity.
Can forgiveness help healing?
Yes, but forgiveness does not mean forgetting or accepting harmful behavior.
Why do people fear change?
Because uncertainty feels dangerous to the brain.
What is the biggest obstacle to personal growth?
The belief that we are permanently broken or incapable of change.
Can small habits change our lives?
Absolutely. Small daily choices shape our future.
What message would you give to someone who feels completely lost?
Feeling lost doesn't mean you are broken. Sometimes it means you are beginning to discover who you truly are.
How can someone start finding themselves?
By listening to their inner voice, understanding their emotions, and living according to their values rather than other people's expectations.
Finally, what does healing really mean?
Healing is not becoming someone new. It is returning to who you were before fear and pain convinced you to become someone else.